Hello, my name is Tony. Slasher movies, a term to describe a genre probably coined in the 1980s, yet the genesis of these films can be traced back to the 1960s and Hitchcock's Psycho, Michael Powell's Peeping Tom, both in 1960, and the Italian Giallo shockers. Psycho was clearly the granddaddy, but if asked to cite the kickstarters of the modern slasher flick, the new wave, I'm guessing most would point to Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, Halloween in 78, and Friday the 13th in 1980. They would, however, be failing to recognise that the giallo flicks and the British movie industry got there earlier. The UK, one could argue, started writing the blueprint with films like Corruption 1968, The Haunted House of Horror 1969, and most notably Tower of Evil 1972. Tower of Evil was, in retrospect, something of a slasher film template. You've got your horny group of hormonally charged teens getting violently picked off. You've got a bunch of disparate, isolated buffoons in a remote setting being terrorized and butchered by something or someone malevolent. Also prominently in play is the morally twisted notion that sexual promiscuity and activity will result in the punishment of being wiped off the face of the earth. You fuck, you die. With one singular exception here, she has sexual contact but gets to live. I'm going to say right off that Tower of Evil, known as Horror on Snape Island and Beyond the Fog in the States, is not a great film. It may not even be a good film, but it is an influential little item and therefore worthy of attention. When I was a kid, it was something special to me. For the time, the violence was quite extreme. Severed hands and heads, impaled bodies, frenzied stabbings, and the liberal shots of topless female nudity and one episode of aggressive sex held some feverish appeal for my pubescent male self. Yes, it was rated X. Yes, I should not have been allowed access to it, but the market hall cinema had a remarkably cavalier approach to the ages of its punters, something I was grateful for then and grateful for now. Did the seemingly endless consumption of adult cinema have an adverse effect on my developing psychology? Well, possibly, but one of the things spending hours in the dark teaches you is the art of concealment. Take that as you will. Tower of Evil, then, opens with Fisherman Hamp, played by jobbing character actor Jack Watson, along with his father, sailing their small boat through the fog surrounding the treacherous rocky coastline of Snape Island. Snape Island is a craggy black granite lump of jagged stone somewhere off the coast of Cornwall, home to a derelict, disused lighthouse, the tower of the title. Once there, they arm themselves with clubs and start to look around. They find a severed hand and a naked male body sprawled in a rock pool. Once in the lighthouse, they discover a naked female corpse with a decapitated head. Splitting up, Hamp's father comes across a young man impaled to the wall with a golden spike. A screaming, naked female leaps out of a closet, stabs Hamp's father to death, and runs out into the misty night, where Hamp clubs her into unconsciousness. All in all, a pretty good intro, I'd say. Any film that starts like this, you'd want to watch. I say you, I mean I would. The girl has survived. Her name is Penny, and when we see her next, she's in the care of psychiatrist Anthony Valentine, on a short break from playing Toby Mears in Callan. Penny is catatonic. She and the three dead kids, American teens who attended a jazz festival, and then thought it would be a fab and groovy idea to rent a boat and sail out to a barren, deserted shithole in the sea. Don't even start to question it. Valentine decides to treat Penny with some disco lights and tranquilizers to get some answers. Cue flashbacks, some awful fake American accents, gratuitous nudity, the suggestion of a blowjob, and multiple bloody murders by an unseen assailant. Melodically soundtracked by some screaming and yelling from Penny. One of the American teens, he gets fatally impaled, is played by Robin Asquith, who was about as American as Queen Victoria's vagina. This is the man who denied me the chance of a meaningful relationship with Linda Hayden. So good, I say, glad he got it early on. Meanwhile, a group of art experts are arranging an expedition to Snape Island. They are on a mission to retrieve some Phoenician artifacts believed to be hidden there. Now, I don't know how much you know about the Phoenician civilization, but it lasted from 1550 BC to around 152 BC and was situated in the eastern Mediterranean near modern-day Lebanon. The nearest to Cornwall a Phoenician boat has ever been found is Malta, 4,000 miles away. Oh, and apparently the Phoenicians worshipped the god Baal. There is supposed to be a huge statue of Baal on the island as well as the treasure. At the time, I bought all this on face value. Seemed perfectly reasonable. Yep, why wouldn't it? This group of intrepid explorers are blessed with a messy 70s swinger dynamic. There's Dan, who is played by Derek Foles. Foles' day job was as the TV sidekick to a stuffed fox puppet called Basil Brush on a BBC Kids show. Here he is married to his colleague Nora, Anna Palk, an adulterous minx who had an affair with another colleague on the trip, Adam, Mark Edwards. Adam is the ex-partner of Rose, the gorgeous Jill Howarth, who is also one of the team. She and Adam split up because of his affair with Nora. Rose is now romantically involved with Dan. Boom, boom. Added to this mix, we have Brent, American actor Brian Halliday, a private dick employed by Penny's parents to find out what really happened on the island, as Penny is currently the only suspect for the killings. Hamp is along for the ride to sail him to the shithole in the sea, assisted by his nephew Brom, Gary Hamilton. Brom dresses in some of the most appallingly obnoxious 70s clothing ever seen on screen or anywhere else in the known world. I mean, seriously, even by the standards of the day, this was pushing the fucking envelope. Adam has thoughtfully brought along some dynamite with him to blast into the caves he is certain hold what they're looking for. Then there's this huge tank of paraffin that just happens to be there, possibly to run the lighthouse light from when the lighthouse had a light. Gallons of paraffin, dynamite, it's a combination that seems to be just begging for trouble. Things go from bad to worse. The boat is destroyed by fire, the radio is trashed, someone dumps a rotting female corpse in a rocking chair for Nora to find, Nora fucks Brom, Nora falls from the top of the lighthouse to her death after being chased by a slavering refugee from a Rob Zombie movie, someone plays creepy music on a flute or recorder or something, shit just don't sit right. Oh, and the early warning sign of no seagulls ever nesting, landing on or flying over Snape Island is ignored out of hand.
Seagulls don't nest on Snape Island. Never see a seagull on Snape.
I mean, that was a dead giveaway. Your average seagull knows to avoid creepy bad shit, right? Let me tell you, these fuckers don't know fear. On a holiday to Cornwall, sat outside a coffee shop in St. Austell, one of these demonic flying parasites swooped down and snatched an entire coffee puff from the plate in front of me, then perched on a nearby wall and ate it, in full view. Bastard! Hamp is forced to confess that his brother Saul, with his wife Martha and son Michael, lived in the lighthouse away from polite society because Saul had some mental health issues. Or as Hamp's acute diagnosis puts it,
Saul were mad.
Martha and Michael died, and it is Saul who is running amok, killing everyone. He is living in the caves beneath the island. So into the caves they go to find Saul and the Phoenician artifacts, and find the artifacts they do. Now my sister, when she was a kid, had a plastic and paste jewellery making kit. Bright, cheap, easily mangled box of crap for making bracelets, bangles, rings and necklaces. She assembled some truly hideous creations. The stuff they find looks just like it was made with one of those kits. And as for the statue of Baal, it resembles something an autistic 4-year-old would have manufactured with an industrial-sized tub of Play-Doh after experiencing some sort of myoclonic seizure. Brom gets killed because he stupidly draws attention to himself, laughing maniacally when he is the first to stumble upon the priceless treasure, delusional enough to believe this horrible dross will bring a major payday. It brings multiple slashes from a plastic saber instead, but at least we are spared any further shots of his vile ensemble. Dan gets killed by Saul. Sorry, Mr. Derek. Saul gets shot to death by Brent, who has a Luger. Hamp gets killed by a filthy, slobbering, misshapen, subterranean, Grizzly Adams type, who happens to be Saul's son Michael, who isn't dead. Rose kills Michael by chucking a paraffin lamp at him and setting him on fire. The conflagration spreads to the leaking paraffin tank, which has purged its contents into the cave, so they catch fire as well. The fire reaches the remaining dynamite and the lighthouse explodes in a huge ball of flame, whilst the survivors, Brent, Adam and Rose, look helplessly on. How will our heroes escape this shithole in the sea, which is even more of a shithole now it's been blown up somewhat? Well, you see, earlier Brent admitted to having visited Snape Island some time back on reconnaissance for his investigation and stashed a dinghy and some supplies just in case. Well, you can't be too careful in these types of films, so all is not lost. Hooray! The end. To quote Mungo Jerry, are you going to watch this? The remastered Blu-ray version is a loving restoration of the original. It's been really well done in all fairness, so there's a decent functioning version out there visually and sonically solid, but that's not much help in the decision-making process, is it? So it's a matter of pros and cons. Tower of Evil falls into the so bad it's good category, but only if you're in the right frame of mind for it. That would be expectations set to medium-low and feeling like an early 70s time capsule. An undemanding little studio-bound British horror flick might be just the ticket to pass the time on a dreary afternoon or evening. You won't have to invest any effort to think deeply or agonize over any complexities, so it's a work-free experience from a viewer perspective. The women are all undeniably attractive, trust me guys. There's a nice line in gratuitous nudity, female tits and ass, male ass. The one moderately rough sex scene will raise a smile if nothing else when Anna Palk demands of fashion victim Gary Hamilton
Zip me.
see her insanely flared trousers have an unfeasibly big zip on them around the crotch area. Yep, some of the dialogue is barely literate and the performances range from over-the-top histrionics on the one hand to being more wooden than a National Trust forest on the other. It's a cruel but amusing bonus to see actors like Anthony Valentine and Dennis Price carrying on gamely whilst probably wondering just how they came to be here and itching to fire their agents. The violent deaths are not explicit or massively gory by today's standards, but they can still pack a bit of a punch. And for me, I'm determined to find any film in which Robin Asquith gets his ass nailed to the wall by a big spike a source of worthwhile entertainment in some way, shape or form. You can always have fun considering how its influence shows itself in subsequent better movies. John Carpenter's Halloween and The Thing, Ridley Scott's Alien, Wes Craven's Scream franchise, and any number of hack and slash pantomimes from the thousands out there to choose from. Pick a slasher movie, any slasher movie, and you can find some element from Tower of Evil in there somewhere that's been, well, I just had to do it. If that's the sort of game you like to play, play it. Worthwhile noting it was hurriedly reissued as Beyond the Fog on the back of John Carpenter's The Fog being released. I read a review which decreed it to be unquestionably rubbish of the first order, but it's solidly entertaining rubbish, and another which said it was a surprisingly adroit little British slasher. Tower of Evil is a revelatory sleeper. Revelatory sleeper? I'm not sure what that means. Answers on a postcard, please. On the downside, if you enjoy location filming in movies, you're going to be disappointed. The few exterior scenes use back projection, and the whole thing is filmed on a studio set. The set design itself is quite creatively imagined, and infuses a decent sense of claustrophobia, of being isolated and trapped. Modern audiences might be bored as the pace isn't exactly frantic, and the special effects are anything but special. A cautious 2 steps up from 70s era Doctor Who. Well, 1.5 maybe. If you're in the market for witty dialogue and banter, best look elsewhere. You won't be finding it here. That said, it is something of a prototype slasher movie, and fans of the genre with an interest in its roots will likely find it something of an attraction. But for the casual viewer, it's not what you would term an essential watch. I can tell you that I like it, but then a lot of things I like no one else does, and they may not have my nostalgic history with it. Best advice, if you spot it up and running on TCM or Netflix or Amazon, watch the first 10 minutes, and that should help you decide whether or not to watch the rest. Thank you for your time and attention. If you have enjoyed this video in any way, please give a thought to striking like, stabbing subscribe or cutting a comment. Bludgeon the notification bell if you feel the need to be informed of new content. Your support is, as always, gratefully appreciated. Meanwhile, here's a song called Apocalypse Rock.
Dancing to the end, there's no turning round, somewhere round the bend. Salt in holy ground, lanterns strung like bleeding lights, shady days and darker nights. This old town been sick so long, no single trace of the good times gone. In the chimes from the tower clock, play the strains of Apocalypse Rock. Kicking down the drive, it's not worth a dime, used to be so alive. This old heart of mine, white sheets hung on power lines, set alight and burning time. single trace of the good times gone. In the chimes from the tower clock, play the strains of apocalypse rock. Hungry in the shadow of the feast that was, they cite the number of the beast before. Out of sight, that was the week that was. Your calculation doesn't add up anymore. This old town been sick so long, no single trace of the good times gone. In the chimes from the tower clock, play the strains of apocalypse rock. Oh, it's such a fucking shock.